I used to think opening a coffee shop was one of the simplest businesses I could start. I pictured a small place on a busy street, a polished espresso machine behind the counter, fresh pastries in a glass display, and regular customers walking in every morning. From the outside, the business looked almost too attractive. Coffee is relatively inexpensive to make, customers buy it repeatedly, and a good drink can sell for several times the cost of the ingredients. I assumed that if I made good coffee and created a comfortable space, the money would follow. That assumption disappeared the moment I started calculating what it would actually cost to open. The first major expense was the location. I quickly realized I was not simply renting four walls, I was paying for access to people. A cheap location with weak foot traffic could save me money on rent and still destroy the business because not enough customers would walk past the door. A stronger location near offices, apartments, universities, transit stops, or shopping streets could bring steady traffic, but it could also come with rent high enough to crush my margins. If I found a suitable space for $3,500 per month, I might need a security deposit and advance rent before I even received the keys. Several $1,000s could disappear before I sold a single cup. Then I would walk into the empty unit and discover that a coffee shop needs far more than paint and furniture. I could need plumbing, electrical upgrades, lighting, flooring, counters, sinks, storage, ventilation, signage, and changes required by local food service rules. A basic renovation could easily cost $50,000 or more. A premium interior could cost much more. This was my first serious financial trap. It would be easy to justify every design choice as an investment. Better tiles, custom furniture, expensive lighting, decorative walls, and a beautiful counter might make the shop look impressive, but none of those things guarantee enough customers. If I spent too much making the place perfect, I could open with almost no cash left to survive the first slow months. Then came the equipment. A professional espresso machine would be one of the largest purchases, but it would only be the beginning. I would need commercial grinders, refrigerators, water filtration, a washing setup, blenders for cold drinks, a point-of-sale system, display refrigeration, scales, pitchers, storage containers, cups, utensils, and cleaning equipment. I also had to decide where saving money was smart and where it was dangerous. A cheaper chair probably would not threaten the business. A cheap espresso machine might. In a busy shop, that machine is not just equipment, it is a revenue-producing asset. If it breaks during the morning rush, I lose more than the repair cost. I lose sales and risk sending regulars somewhere else. After that came licenses, registrations, insurance, food safety requirements, employment paperwork, and local approvals. Those costs vary by jurisdiction, so I could not simply copy an online startup budget and assume it applied to me. Then I needed inventory. Coffee beans, milk, alternative milk, syrups, tea, pastries, breakfast ingredients, cups, lids, napkins, packaging, and cleaning supplies all had to be purchased before opening. Buying too little could leave me unable to serve customers. Buying too much could create waste before I even understood what people wanted. Finally, I needed employees. This created another uncomfortable contradiction. I had to pay wages before I knew whether customer demand would support them. If I hired too few people, service could become slow and chaotic. If I hired too many, I could have a fully staffed counter with almost no customers while payroll kept running. By then, I understood the real cost of opening. I was not only buying equipment and furniture, I was buying enough time for the shop to find repeat customers before rent, payroll, waste, and mistakes consumed cash alone. When I finally opened the doors, I realized something important almost immediately. Selling coffee was not the same as making money. Customers saw coffee and food. I had to see revenue, cost, margin, and customer value. The most obvious source of revenue was coffee. Coffee formed the core of the menu because people bought it often and ingredient costs could be relatively low compared with the selling price. But the difference between cost and price was not real profit. Rent, wages, utilities, card fees, cleaning, waste, and taxes still had to be paid from what remained. If I sold one latte for $5 and the ingredients and cup cost me $1.50, I had $3.50 left before operating expenses. I needed enough transactions every day for those small contributions to cover the fixed costs of keeping the shop open. So I started thinking less about one coffee and more about volume. If I served 150 customers a day and the average customer spent $5, daily revenue would be $750. Over 30 days, that would be $22,500 in monthly revenue. But if traffic dropped to 80 customers a day, revenue at the same average spend would fall to $12,000. That difference could decide whether I had a healthy business or a cash problem. That made average customer spending incredibly important. Coffee could bring people through the door, but pastries, breakfast items, cold drinks, desserts, and simple add-ons could increase the value of each visit. If someone came in planning to spend $5 on coffee and also bought a $4 pastry, my revenue from that customer almost doubled without requiring another person to enter the shop. I could grow revenue in two basic ways: bring in more customers or earn more from each customer. Bringing in more people was harder. It depended on location, reputation, competition, and habits I could not fully control. Increasing the average order could sometimes be simpler. A breakfast bundle, larger size, extra shot, or pastry could raise revenue without adding another table. But I also had to avoid turning the menu into a giant catalog. Every extra product created more inventory, training, storage, and waste. A breakfast sandwich that sold well could increase revenue. One that nobody ordered could sit in the refrigerator until I threw it away. So I learned to care about contribution, not just sales. A product could be popular and still be weak financially if it required expensive ingredients, too much preparation time, or frequent waste. Another item could sell less often but produce a stronger margin with almost no extra labor. Cold drinks could smooth demand. Coffee might be strongest in the morning, while iced drinks and lemonades could attract customers later in the day. Breakfast products gave me another way to capture morning spending, while pastries could sell almost all day. Then there were repeat customers. A person who visited once and spent $5 was useful. A person who visited 4 times a week could be far more valuable over a year. That was why consistency mattered financially. If the drink tasted different every visit, service was slow, or popular items were constantly unavailable, I was not only losing one sale, I was risking dozens of future purchases. This was another expectation reversal for me. The highest margin drink was not automatically the most valuable thing in the shop. A reliable customer who returned again and again could be worth far more than one expensive order. Over time, I could add delivery, office orders, beans, or catering. Those channels could create extra revenue, but only if the additional sales were large enough to cover commissions, packaging, labor, and complexity. By then, I understood that the business did not run on coffee alone. It ran on traffic, average spend, repeat visits, and disciplined margins. The goal was not simply to sell more cups. It was to make each customer visit contribute enough money, often enough to support everything behind the counter. Once the shop was running, I discovered that revenue could look impressive while the business underneath it was still fragile. Money came in every day, but money also left every day, and the timing mattered more than I expected. My biggest fixed costs were rent and wages. Rent did not care whether Monday was busy or empty. Payroll did not disappear because it rained for 3 days and foot traffic fell. Utilities, insurance, software, cleaning, internet, and basic maintenance kept arriving as well. Before I sold a single drink each morning, part of that day's revenue was already committed. Then came suppliers. Coffee beans, milk, syrups, pastries, and packaging had to be reordered constantly. If supplier prices increased, I could accept a lower margin, raise prices, or change ingredients. At first, I assumed food waste would be a small problem. It was not. Milk expired, pastries went stale, prepared food had a short life. A profitable-looking product could lose money if I threw too much away. Suppose I bought $1,200 worth of pastries for a week and ended up throwing away $240 worth before they could be sold. I had not simply lost a few leftover pastries. I had paid for inventory that produced nothing. Repeat that weekly and a small forecasting error became a serious loss. Equipment created another risk. My espresso machine, grinders, and refrigerators were essential to sales. If one failed, the repair bill could be painful, but downtime was often worse. A broken grinder during the morning rush could mean lost orders. That forced customer traffic was the risk I could control least. A new competitor could open nearby. An office building could lose tenants. Construction could block the street. Weather could reduce walking traffic. A university holiday could empty the neighborhood. Even a small shift in customer habits could cut sales, while most fixed costs stayed exactly the same. Imagine I normally served 150 customers per day at an average order of $7.50. That would produce $1,125 in daily revenue. If traffic dropped by 20%, I would serve 120 customers and bring in $900. I would lose $225 per day. Over 30 days, that would be $6,750 less revenue. My rent would not fall by 20%. My insurance would not fall by 20%. My loan payment, if I had one, would not fall by 20%. I could reduce some ingredient purchases and labor hours, but many costs would remain. That was when I understood operating leverage. A coffee shop can feel wonderfully profitable when sales are rising because fixed costs are spread across more customers, but the same structure works against me when sales fall. Revenue can drop faster than expenses, and profit can disappear quickly. Cash flow created one more trap. I could show a profit on paper and still feel short of cash if I had just paid rent, payroll, suppliers, repairs, and taxes at the same time. Profit told me whether the business was earning money overall. Cash told me whether I could survive this week. So I stopped judging the shop by the amount entering the register. I watched labor percentage, ingredient costs, waste, traffic, average order value, and cash in the bank. The real risk was never one expensive bag of beans or one slow afternoon. It was several small problems happening together while I assumed strong revenue would protect me. By then, I understood that a coffee shop does not fail only because customers dislike the coffee. It can fail with a full room and strong sales if costs grow faster than the money left behind. The longer I studied the business, the more I noticed something uncomfortable. Coffee shops did not always fail because the coffee was bad. Some served excellent drinks and still disappeared within a year or two. The first reason was usually location. I could build the best shop in the city, but if too few people passed the door, I would spend every day fighting mathematics. A quiet street might offer cheaper rent, yet cheap rent was not really cheap if it came with weak demand. Suppose my monthly fixed costs were $22,000, and each customer left enough contribution to cover about $5 of those costs. I would need roughly 4,400 customer visits per month just to cover that basic structure. That was about 147 visits per day. If the location naturally produced only 70 or 80 realistic customers per day, I did not have a marketing problem. I had a capacity problem. The street itself could not deliver enough demand. A bad location could not always be rescued by better coffee or more advertising. Then there was rent. A busy location looked safer, but high rent created another trap. A prestigious corner could require huge daily sales just to stand still. The shop could be full and still make almost nothing. Crowds did not automatically mean profit. With high rent, inefficient labor, or expensive ingredients, a busy shop could work extremely hard for a small return. Menu size created another problem. I might think more options meant more customers, so I could add sandwiches, cakes, salads, smoothies, seasonal drinks, and breakfast. But every item created inventory, preparation, storage, training, and waste. A large menu also made forecasting harder. If I stocked ingredients for 40 products and only 15 sold consistently, cash would sit inside food that moved slowly or expired. The menu would look impressive, while the refrigerator quietly destroyed my margin. Then came incorrect demand estimates. Before opening, I could look at a busy street and assume many passers-by would become customers, but foot traffic and buying traffic were not the same. Thousands could pass every day, while only a fraction wanted coffee at my price during my hours from my shop. If I built my financial plan around 200 customers per day and the real number was 110, the business could be in trouble from the first month. I could also misread temporary excitement as permanent demand. Opening week could be crowded from curiosity and social media. I could mistake that spike for normal sales, hire more people, and increase inventory. then curiosity would fade. If repeat customers did not replace them, revenue could fall while my costs stayed high. Poor pricing could also hurt me. If I priced drinks too low because I wanted to compete, I might create volume without enough margin. If I priced them too high without offering a strong enough experience or location, customers could simply choose another shop. A weak location could force me to spend more on marketing. High rent could increase my break-even point. An oversized menu could increase waste. Too many employees could raise payroll. Then one slow month could become two, and I might start using savings or debt to cover normal operating costs. Failure could then look like small cash injections every month, another $2,500 for payroll, another $1,800 for suppliers, another loan to make rent. From the outside, the shop could still look alive. Inside the accounts, it could already be dying. By then, I understood that the most dangerous mistake was falling in love with the idea of the coffee shop instead of the economics of the coffee shop. I could survive an ugly chair, a smaller menu, or a weak month for a while. What I could not survive for long was a business model where the normal level of customer demand never produced enough cash to cover the normal level of costs. That was the real reason some coffee shops failed. They did not run out of coffee, they ran out of room for error. Eventually, I started to understand why a small number of coffee shops could become extremely profitable while others struggled just to survive. If I had a location that brought in steady demand every day, the economics changed quickly. Rent was still rent, insurance was still insurance, my software subscriptions still cost the same, but every extra customer helped spread those fixed costs across more sales. Suppose my shop served 220 customers per day, and the average order was $8.00. That would produce $1,760 in daily revenue. Over 30 days, revenue could reach $52,800. This was where high-margin drinks became powerful. A latte, Americano, iced coffee, or tea could sell for much more than the direct cost of the ingredients. Once my fixed costs were already covered, additional drink sales could contribute strongly to profit, but volume alone was not enough. I needed customers to return. A regular office worker could be worth hundreds of transactions. That was why consistency and speed mattered. If customers trusted the shop, they did not need to reconsider the purchase every morning. They simply came back. That repeat behavior could make revenue much more predictable, and predictable revenue made staffing, inventory, and purchasing easier to manage. Then I could increase the average order. A customer who normally bought a $5 coffee might add a $4.50 pastry. Another might order breakfast. Someone else might choose a larger drink or an extra shot. I did not need every person to spend dramatically more. Even a small increase across hundreds of daily transactions could change monthly profit. If 220 customers increased their average order by only $1 in, that would add $220 in revenue per day, or $6,600 per month. Then came delivery. At first, delivery looked like easy extra revenue, but I had to be careful. Platforms could charge commissions, packaging cost more, and drinks had to arrive in good condition. Still, if I priced correctly and focused on items that traveled well, delivery could help me earn money from customers who never entered the shop. Office orders could be even more attractive. A single company ordering 20 coffees and breakfast items at once could produce the revenue of many individual customers with one transaction. Once the original location became stable, expansion became possible, but I learned that opening a second shop was not automatically growth. If the first location worked because of one exceptional street, one excellent manager, or one unusually loyal customer base, copying the logo somewhere else might not copy the economics. A second location only made sense if I could reproduce the system. That meant consistent recipes, supplier relationships, staff training, inventory controls, pricing, service standards, and financial reporting. This was the second major expectation reversal. The first successful shop could depend heavily on me. A successful coffee company could not. If every employee called me with every problem, if only I knew how to order inventory, or if only I could maintain quality, then I had created a demanding job, not a scalable business. The highly profitable version looked different. I would have a strong location, repeat customers, a focused menu, controlled waste, reliable staff, and enough volume to spread fixed costs efficiently. Then each additional sale became more valuable. Eventually, I could add beans, branded products, catering, subscriptions, or new locations. But